hell happened to my Cyclops? Actually, I knew what happened. Here's what happened. I was driving, and there was this tree that spawned out of nowhere. Probably that dumbass tree right there. And it started to I no-clipped into it, and it flung my submarine upside down, which, through my few hundred hours of I've never flipped my Cyclops upside down, which is extremely hard to do in Subnautica. That bullshit was. Oh my god.
The entire map of the game totally destroyed by just the impact alone. That's not all the negative impact that our crashing spaceship would have caused.
Radiation.
That amount of Earth being dug up and water being shifted, it's likely that it would have caused a tsunami. Tsunamis are a series of large waves caused by a big displacement of water, leading to what appears to be rapidly rising tides rather than traditional waves. Tsunamis are usually caused by things like earthquakes or volcanoes, but sometimes they can be caused by underwater detonations, things that are man-made. And a ship of this size crashing at high speed from space, yeah, I think that's got a real possibility of having a similar effect.
A kiss of smoke, a touch of fire, and the premium flavor of the best Angus beef ever made. The certified Angus beef brand. If it's not certified, it's not the best.
At Firehouse Subs, a portion of every purchase helps provide life-saving equipment to first responders. Every sub makes a difference, like our Firehouse Meatball or Hearty Italian Sub. Your choice for just $6.99 each. Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives.
Or, if not that, then definitely the explosion that comes later. A tsunami would obviously be devastating to any civilizations on land, but I mean, they're underwater anyway, what's the big deal? Well, the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami in India gives us some insight. Naturally, a tsunami is going to displace a lot of water, but also a lot of sediment as it rips up the seafloor. In India, they learned that this leads to breakages and suffocating of coral reefs and the death of seagrass beds thanks to this, especially in their early stages of life. With these suddenly gone, marine life finds it harder to survive. Plus, the tsunami itself will flush algae and bacteria into neighboring ecosystems. Ecosystems which maybe aren't adapted to deal with this new invasive species. For a really wacky example of it, check out this concrete block. It was transported by a tsunami in 2011 from Japan all the way over to the Oregon coastline.
Holy shit!
That block, researchers found that the algae and microorganisms had survived the trip, allowing them to establish new communities in Oregon's coastline and disrupt the natural balance that existed there. And all of this is just talking about the initial impact. It gets way worse from here. I mentioned earlier how in order to survive, we have to scavenge around for materials. Around the crash site of the Aurora, we find some very useful supplies. There's lots of scrap metal that's broken off from the ship upon impact, but there's also things like batteries, as well as food and water floating around. And while all that garbage floating around is going to be good for us and our survival, it's not going to be so good for our ocean planet's survival. Batteries and e-waste in general are unfortunately pretty common sights in ocean cleanup. In 2019, 53.6 million tons of e-waste was collected worldwide, and only 17.4% of it was recycled. That leaves 82.6% of it being disposed of by dismantling, incineration, or being dumped in the ocean. As batteries degrade, they release toxic chemicals. This can be
Which explode in water, by the way.
Nickel and lead, all of which leach into the ocean over time and lead to fish absorbing these toxic chemicals as they try to get oxygen out of the water.
Who the hell uses lead-ion batteries anymore?
Hooray! But the good news doesn't last because the batteries use copper, yet another heavy metal and likewise toxic if ingested. Swing and a miss there, Unknown Worlds Entertainment. We have a similar issue with the food and water supplies that we find. The food and water itself aren't really the big deal here, it's their containers that are causing the problem. Stuff like water bottles. In 2017, the Ocean Conservancy did an international coastal cleanup.
Propulsion cannons here?
20,834,689 items that they collected, plastic bottles came in as the third most common source of trash. 1.5 million collected, with plastic bottle caps coming in at number 4, 1.1 million collected. And that's just the bottles. Other plastics like bags, straws, food containers, lids, all of them took up spots 5 through 9 on the 10 most common.
Literally me over here just picking up all the garbage.
Is the most common thing that you'll find.
Oh, there's a bunch of trash over here.
Alone throw away 35 billion empty water bottles every year. And that's Americans alone, and that's also not including soda bottles, which is crazy. That's just a heck of a lot of plastic. And when it doesn't end up being collected by
how much cubic I wonder how many cubic meters of plastic there are, or cubic kilometers.
One of these off the west coast of the U.S. A plastic bottle discarded from California takes the California current south toward Mexico. There, it may catch the North Equatorial Current, which crosses the vast Pacific and ends up settling into one of these vast garbage patches, which could mean traveling over 5,000 miles.
There's only one good thing, is that if the plastic's like that, hopefully it starts gathering itself up, and then we can collect it.
Ridiculously harmful for sea life. Turtles mistake the plastic bags for jellyfish. Albatrosses mistake plastic pellets for fish eggs. And we've all seen those pictures of seals getting caught up in abandoned fishing nets. All of these end in starvation, ruptured organs, or drowning for innocent sea life. And it doesn't end there either. Thanks to the ocean currents, it gets broken up into tiny pieces, which start affecting the plankton and algae by blocking out large patches of sunlight, which means they can't photosynthesize. This means a decrease in population, which in turn decreases the population of everything up the food chain, all the way up to sharks and whales. It is like one massive, awful set of dominoes. All of this is to say that having plastic water bottles spread all across the crash zone is going to have some dire consequences for the local flora and fauna, if our planet is anything to go by. Because here's the thing, friends, the Aurora crash has released a ton of garbage into the ocean. The Aurora was sent to build a phase gate on the other side of the galaxy, a construction plan that according to the ship's status log will take 3 years. And according to that same log, there were 157 people on board the ship. With that amount of crew, you're gonna need a lot of supplies. How much? Well, we can figure it out using the International Space Station as a guide. Rehydrated food eaten in space initially comes dehydrated, if that wasn't obvious. And those dehydrated foods need to be contained in order to keep them safe for consumption. Typically, food on the International Space Station weighs in with 0.27 pounds or 0.12 kilograms of packaging weight. We know the Aurora's project time. We know how many people were on board, so let's do some quick calculations. We'll assume a standard 3 meals per day per passenger, so that gives us 127.17 pounds or 57 kilograms per day in packaging waste. Then we have to multiply that by the amount of days in a year, 365, and then multiply that by the 3 years of the mission, giving us a grand total of 139,251 pounds of trash. 63,000 kilograms of packaging just released out into this ocean planet overnight. And that's not even considering...
Actually, minus 3 months, or minus a month or two or so, because I know the Aurora took a few months to get here.
Coastal cleanup. Food packaging tends to get caught up in ocean currents, moving them up to 5,000 miles away, which, when the map that we have is only a few thousand meters, means that we're now affecting areas that go well beyond the scope of our crash site. This has suddenly become a planet-wide issue. Fortunately, the Aurora doesn't seem to have any hydrocarbons like crude oil on board, so that's good. At least we don't have to deal with a huge oil spill, but we do have to deal with a huge radiation spill. If you try to swim near the Aurora at the start of the game, you'll find radiation in the area.
Detecting increased local radiation levels.
This will start to deplete your health until you die and respawn. Later on, we're informed that the Aurora's drive core isn't in good shape.
Warning, local radiation readings suggest the Aurora's drive core has reached critical state. Quantum detonation will occur within 2 hours.
In other words, big ship about to go big boom. And big boom it certainly does. The game describes it as a quantum explosion, which doesn't really tell us that much. Quantum's just one of those science fiction words that gets added onto things when they can't explain the science behind it. But that is not how we roll here. What sort of explosion are we talking about? Upon impact, we know that there was clearly damage to the drive core, and that led to radiation pouring out into the environment, even before the explosion takes place. This, to me, screams nuclear reactor, and it's not that far-fetched either. NASA actually uses radioisotope thermoelectric generators
RTGs.
for long-haul missions to places like Mars. This is because radioactive substances release heat as it breaks down over time. That heat is then converted into electricity, which can power the spacecraft. This would also mean that if there was a breach in the protective casing of the radioisotope, then we would see radiation leaking out into the atmosphere around it.
Exactly.
The neighbor's club is easier than ever with the Tractor Supply app. Quickly access your rewards and more through the wallet.
Yep. It's a good thing you can fix.
Fusion would probably cause more damage, creating more breaches for more radiation to leak out, hence the nearly 1,000 meter radius of radiation that appears after the explosion. Why does any of this matter? Well, if the radiation is indeed nuclear in nature, you can bet your bottom dollar it ain't gonna do the planet much good. We know that if you, the player, are in close proximity to the Aurora upon its explosion, you die instantly. So it's likely that any other sea life, be it flora or fauna, would suffer the same fate. The radiation radius then increases massively to 940 meters, which is near nearly the size of the aurora itself. This isn't just affecting the crash site biome, but also the Koosh zone, mushroom forest, safe shallows, kelp forest, and grassy plateaus. All of these ecosystems are now in grave danger, and not just the current residents, but the next generations are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest, as found in the Japanese seas near the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant explosion. This is because eggs and larvae
Thing is hit with radiation.
altering their DNA
Yeah.
and causing cancers, as well as
That's
other
a
weird
really bad
mutations and physical deformities.
consequences
And just to be
when
clear,
there's something
no, I'm
developing.
not suggesting that you're going to start seeing two-headed fish like deformities like smaller or misshapen limbs, disrupted camouflage, things like cataracts causing eventual blindness, as seen in the mice near Chernobyl. Because of these deformities, the young fish don't tend to survive for very long, their mutations giving them massive disadvantages in the food chain, which in turn can cause radiation poisoning in those bigger fish that decide to eat them. Sure, we do eventually fix the leak in Subnautica, and after 3 days the radiation subsides, but in a sense, that doesn't really matter. Fukushima's nuclear accident managed to transport radiation all the way from Japan to Canada's continental shelf in 2.1 years. It continued to remain high until 2016. This shows us that the explosion of the aurora is going to have potentially global effects for the next 5 years. And if we look at Chernobyl 35 years on, we're still seeing massive repercussions of that explosion. Researchers looking into plants like wheat, rye, oats, and barley that are near Chernobyl are still showing high levels of radioactive contamination, making them very dangerous for consumption by humans and animals. The radioisotope that tends to be used for radioisotope thermoelectric generators in space is typically plutonium-238, which has a half-life of 87
That's a nasty
years,
element.
meaning that the planet could be dealing with the effects of radiation for centuries after the crash. So while yes,
Plutonium is the
managed to stop the
boogeyman
mystery illness affecting the planet, we also
of the
introduced
periodic table. Only 5 grams or so of plutonium can kill a person. That's enough to make up, if I'm not wrong, a nickel. That is a very low amount of... Like, it is one of the most dangerous, poisonous materials ever known to man. Luckily, plutonium is... I think there's only, like, probably micrograms of it in the Earth's crust. Plutonium must be synthesized in something known as a breeder reactor.
A delicate ecosystem. Between the trash that we brought, the tsunamis, the radiation, it's likely that we're not a net positive for this planet. We completely wrecked the world of Subnautica, and we're not done because 2 years later, Altera decides to do some more research on the planet, bringing with it more people, more waste, and more damage to the environment. Planet 4546b just cannot catch a break. Enjoy the tranquil world of Subnautica while it lasts, because humans are about to destroy it, like we tend to do. But hey, just because we're doing it to Subnautica's world doesn't mean that our planet has to suffer the same fate. Today's episode may have been about a spaceship crashing into an alien planet, but the science we... Hello, Internet. Thank you for stopping by. Today is no...
Dude. The Last Bacon. I watched a lot of the Last Bacon's videos and stuff. Ooh. I love when you just find random stalker teeth. Oh. Thinking also about going to find a bunch of large titanium chunks. Ow. I took everything from this area, but yet there's just still more scrap. But I ain't complaining, you know? Docking, or moon pool, yeah. I think I have a stalker tooth. It's pissed. Get a bunch of titanium, my guy. I have a lot of titanium. I'm actually gonna save quit because I need to get my lunch.